I'm going to highlight a few things. As we all read the first chapter, right? Okay, so I'm going to highlight a few things, and then we're going to unmute and just discuss it, all of us together, because I really do want to listen to everyone and go over what we learned from the first chapter. Really quick, the first chapter talks about King Xerxes, okay? And Xerxes the first. It talks about him in the third year of his reign. He hosted this huge party, okay? He actually hosted two parties. The first one was for about 180 days, okay? 180 days, and that was for all of the governors, the leaders, the army captains, all the great people that he knew. And going back to history, he was actually preparing. He's hosting these huge parties because he wanted to prepare a big fight against the Greek to revenge for his father's defeat. The Greek had defeated his father really bad. So he's preparing this huge party, 180 days, okay? I mean, when you host the Super Bowl, you're home for like 2 weeks. But this is 180 days. And he started showing off everything he's got. I mean, when you look at the drapes that he was using, the beds, the couches, the cups that they're using, the wine, the food, everything, he was making sure to let everyone know how great he is. Okay? So 180 days. And then the second feast, and that's from verse 1 to 4. And then the second feast from 5 to 8, 7 days where he invited the rest of the country, the rest of the people in the capital city. And then all of that is not enough. All of that is not enough. He felt like he needed something else. He felt like, okay, it looks like I tried everything. I fed these people. I gave them drinks. I brought out the linens. I brought out everything that I have. And it looks like they're not impressed enough. So guess what I'm going to do next? I'm going to use my wife. I'm going to use another human being. I'm going to use my wife, how beautiful she is. And she has no choice but to submit to me. Yeah. Right? So he calls her, okay, Queen Vashta. He calls her and he says, come and appear before men, which was really against what they would, do in this culture. And she rejected his offer, okay? So instead of talking to his wife on their own, instead of discussing why did you do this? Or first of all, he was drunk. He got drunk. Well, when you drink for 187 days, you get drunk, So he wasn't really in his right mind. So she rejected. And instead of talking to his wife, instead of making a wise decision, he goes to the people that he usually asks wisdom from. Okay, the people that knew the time, his cabinet, the people that are close to him. And their decision was, get rid of your wife. Okay, let's get you another one. It's that easy. Let's just get rid of your wife. Let's get you another one. And let us send the message, not to your wife only, but let's send the message to all the women that we know, that if you disobey your husband, not only that, let's write a letter and send it to everyone. If you ever disobey your husband, you're going to, it's going to cost you. So this is in the summary what happened in the first chapter. A few things I noticed really quick, and then we're going to open it for discussion. Do you know that God's name is not mentioned in this book at all? Which actually caused a lot of people to doubt the legitimacy, that's the word, of this book. How can a whole book, 27 chapters, just kidding, just 10, 10 chapters, and God's name is not mentioned even once? But even though, and this is what really got me, even though they're all going through dark times, it's 176, I'm writing these numbers, it's 176 verses. The name of Xerxes is mentioned 190 times. the name of the Lord was not mentioned even once. However, when we read that book from the beginning to end, you will see that God was the one that was monitoring everything, and God was leading everything. If you read the story of Joseph, we were discussing this with someone the other day, how his brothers tried to repay something good that he was doing by trying to kill him, by throwing him in the well, by selling him to the Egyptians, by him going to be sold as a slave. All of that. Really, God, where are you? What are you doing? Where is your presence? Where is your strength? But God was directing everything for Joseph's good. So listen, even if this chapter, even if the whole book did not mention God's name once, and it seemed like King Xerxes had all the control in the world, it looked like he was the one that was calling the shots, even if he seemed like he was the one that was removing queens and assigning queens, even if Haman, the horrible guy, and this is when I was reading this, I was studying this, I didn't know that Haman was a descendant of Amalek. You guys remember Amalek? The first people to fight against the people of God when they left Egypt, right? That he was one of their descendants. Here we are, the people of God in this foreign land. Okay, they are enslaved in a foreign land because of their sins. The city is destroyed. They're not in their city. They're not in God's presence. God's name is not mentioned. Really, it cannot get any darker than this. Maybe unless now these days that we're living in right now, where you feel like death is in control, where you feel like this little virus is in control, where you feel like, where is God in all of this? Where is God? I can't see him. But I want to encourage you. God is behind the scene. God is still in control. Even if you're reading in the news, even if you're reading in the numbers that you check every day, even if you're looking at the stock market, even if you're looking at the oil industry, even if you're looking at all of that and you're seeing disaster after another, even if you're seeing that things are confusing and not making sense, God is still in control. Okay, God is still in control. And sometimes a crown has to be removed for another crown to come in. Sometimes an authority has to be removed. Sometimes our dependency has to be removed for God's reign to come in. Vashta, the queen, her name means the beautiful woman. Sometimes the beauty that we look at, the beauty that we have idolized, the beauty that we have made in this life, sometimes that has to go away so Esther can come in. So something from God can come in. So I want us to discuss the following. Okay? The king reigned over 127, countries. Someone with all of that might. If you want to write this down, you'll be great. Someone of all this might and riches and greatness. And as you can read in the verses, that he did all these parties so he can show his riches. For his wife not to come over, really, does it require that kind of action from him? How did he get to that place? That's number one. Number two, was he right about consulting with his political cabinet? Number three, was he right to listen to them and remove her? And then, was she right for not coming to his party? Because in the Bible, it says that she had her own party. And it could be because he was drunk, or it could be because she had her own thing going on, just like he had his friends coming over and they're celebrating him. It could be that she had her own friends as well, and they were celebrating her. Okay? if we face problems like this in our life, how should we treat it? Okay, if we face these kind of trouble, if we are not, and then we're going to go back to the whole idea of the chapter, the whole idea of the book. If we're not seeing God, can we still have the confidence that he's still around? Okay, let's start with those and then come back and, but I would like for this to be a fight, because there are a couple of things here that that we would have different opinions on, right? So I would like for this to be an open discussion. I was hoping at that, I keep looking at the clock, I was hoping to really just give a summary for 5 minutes, but you know me, I can't. So for us all to can just bring everything in this chapter, it's not, I don't care if we finish the first chapter today, even if we get a couple of those questions and move on and get it next time, that's fine. As long as we really, going over everything that we can get out of it. Okay? So, Pastor Albert.
Would you mind going over the first question again, Habibi?
Okay. So the first question, someone with all that power, someone with all that might, and he wanted to display it, okay, for something like his wife not coming over, does it require all that anger? Does it require for him to make that big of a deal of this? The reason I'm asking that question, I'm hoping I have a couple of answers, but I want to hear you guys. Someone who seems like has it all, okay? How can someone who seems like he has it all, one little thing like this just ruins everything for him and causes a disaster that leads to divorce? So.
All right, so the floor is open. If you have a response, if you have something to share, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Or should I unmute everyone at the same time? Everyone? All right, you're all in. I can hear you all.
Yes.
Almost. All right.
Yeah.
So Hassan's question was, does it take all that?
I think it was a huge overreach on his part, because he was trying to send a message. He was just trying.
We can't hear you clearly, James.
Okay, better?
Yeah.
Better, yes.
Okay. I think he was trying to make a point to women and their husbands everywhere. Like his ideal, the idea in his head was that women are supposed to do whatever their husbands want, that they're supposed to please their husband. And that's the whole point. And because that was the most important thing to him, he agreed to do this, because when you've got an ideal in your brain as like, this is the most important thing, everything else, everything that you do toward that goal doesn't really seem like much, no matter how drastic it is. So his idea is, she didn't obey me. It doesn't matter what the circumstances were. Therefore, because it's a national sin, I guess he would call it, right? It's like a national disgrace. Then there have to be huge consequences for that reason. So I think that was his thought process. And so in order to achieve that goal, what he did was the right thing to do, if that's the goal. But I think just his motives were so out of whack that he just overextended so far that way, because he just had the wrong, he was so drunk with power that it caused him to overreach that much.
Let's go, James. So are you saying, in other words, or that he thought that she was just one of his possessions that he needed to show off?
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah. She was one of his possessions, and on top of that, his entire point for this whole feast for 6 months, he's trying to show how powerful he is. And for a person to stand up and say, "Hey, you actually don't have that power over me," it kind of counteracted everything he was trying to show to all of his friends. So, yeah.
I think part of it is like he's treating her as an object because look what I have, you know, I have power, I have money, I have food, I have everything, and I have a beautiful wife. Let me get her for you. You know, she's an object. She's an object. It's like, and I was reading, when I was reading this, I felt like he's not even inviting her to enjoy the party. He's inviting her to the party as an object. Let me show you my car. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. And let me show you my wife. So this is why she was like, no, I'm not coming. So that's a good lesson for us.
Do you guys feel like this society we live in kind of similar to that?
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Okay.
Not only especially the city that we're living in. It's the capital of show off, you know? Let me show you this, let me show you this, let me show you this. So, yeah.
Anyone else?
Also, it's not it starts off with the way he saw himself too. You know, it's not, he saw her as an object because the way he saw himself, he's far greater than everybody. So he had the pride in him. So I'm so high above that nobody's even equal. Everybody's an object to me. So it was a big deal of pride right there.
Good. You know, one of the most interesting things that I read while I was reading this, that in their culture, everyone was considered a servant of the king, except for the queen. But that's on paper. But when it came to it, and as Philip said and as James said, in his mind, no, you're still going to serve me. You're still going to serve my pride. I'm still going to use you to show off. Okay, let this be a lesson, as Philip said. The second question I have, did he do the right thing to consult these people? Right now, we you know, I love marriage counseling. I love, you know, talking to other couples. I love talking to therapists. I love all of that. But did he consult the right people? Did you guys read that chapter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say something about
It's,
I think he consulted the people that they were going to be yes and amen people to him.
that's it.
That's good.
So he consulted them because he knew the response.
Mhm. Very good.
it says he said to the wise men who understood the times. So he was talking to, I guess it makes sense. He was talking to people who understood what was going on in that day and age. They understood the times. And so their answer to him was about the times. Here's how the times are, and here's how it's going to shift. All right, here's how it's going to shift if you do this. They exaggerated it again, because in verse 18 they tell him, this very day, the noble ladies of Persia and Media will say to all the king's officials, report of the behavior of the queen, the excessive contempt and wrath. Like, the news is going to spread throughout Persia and Media today. Everybody's going to hear about it. right? So they were speaking as though they understood the times, and their intent was to keep the times the same way, to maintain the status quo, I guess is a better way to put it. Their goal, so they were very good at that. I guess that's what the king wanted too. So again, for the purpose that he put in his mind, this was the best idea he could have, to consult these people, right? Because that's what he wanted to do. So I guess it all depends on, what is it that you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, that's good, James.
I think those people are the same like the helpers of Pharaoh اللي هم السحرة والعرافين.
The sorcerers.
Sorcerers. And this is what you take when you consult this kind of people, I think.
That's very true. But he shouldn't have consulted anyone on a matter that had to do between him and his wife. This is an issue that was between a man and his significant other, the love of his life, the one he's supposed to marry forever and ever. And he brought people in and elevated the issue from a marriage issue to a political issue, to a national issue, to something that was blown way out of proportion. And no matter what the response was, he would have had to do what he did, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I understand that God's providence is in this thing from beginning to end, and God wants to bring in Esther, whose name means hidden, because he has some treasure that he wants to reveal and expose. And I get that. But from a lesson that we can learn is whenever there's a problem between me and my significant other, it's not to bring in other people. Even the closest people to us, whether it's family or friends or whatever, it should be solved between two individuals and the two individuals only. Or if we're having trouble, we go to a professional. We don't start talking to others just for the sake of talking, because that creates bigger problems.
So you said exactly what I wanted to say. So we can, I can talk to my business partners, I can talk to people that I work with about work stuff. But when it comes to marriage, there is a difference, because I'm supposed to love my wife as Christ loved his church. I'm supposed to treat my wife with kindness and tenderness. I'm supposed to be understanding. I'm supposed to be patient. I'm supposed to deal with her the same way Jesus deals with the church.
Amen.
However, what he did, he treated this situation as, okay, now we're in war. Now we're at war. So what are we going to do? These are the same people that advise him about which country are we going to take over next? Which economic plan are we going to take next? These are not the same measurement we use with our wives or our home. Okay, so how about the next question? Are you with her or against her for not coming to the party? Because in one way, yes, he was wrong to ask that question, but in another way, on the other hand, she is his wife. So does the issue of submission come and this is where I want us to get really deep, is the issue of submission, does it apply here or not? And all the men don't want to speak.
They're afraid.
They're afraid.
Mute.
I think, well, I'm not married, so I can do this.
No, that's why the only single guy can talk. By the way, we're recording, James. So
Yeah.
Mrs. James.
We'll play it for my wife someday. No, I think it all comes down to a balance. I think again it comes down to what is your motive. Even as his wife, what is her goal in this situation? Is it, I just want to defy my husband to show that I'm superior, to show that I'm not his subject, so I'm just going to defy him? Or is it really just a matter of respect, that this is not how I'm supposed to be treated? So I'm just going to continue to serve my guests here and be with them, Because on the other hand, if she had gone, that doesn't necessarily mean that she was like less than, or that she was under, like under his heel or something. You know, it all depends, because this, like it or not, this was a political situation. The king made it so. So again, she has to balance. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to this. It's really just a balance of how important is it to you to maintain this public show, this idea that you are not at his beck and call, versus, you know, maintaining the peace in the kingdom for now and dealing with your husband later. You know, so I think it all comes down to what is she prepared to deal with in terms of consequences. And if she was prepared to face this consequence, then I don't think we can fault her for what she did. But if this wasn't what she intended, I think it would have made more sense to go and deal with the marriage privately. Like you said, it all comes down to her personal conscience, I think, between her and God.
Good, James.
I'm curious to hear what some of the ladies are thinking right now.
Say it.
Just say.
I have something to say. This is Rolla.
Hi, Rolla.
It's okay.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I'm comfortable on my chair.
Yeah, you can go.
You know, how many of us ladies would like to be told to go to a party the last minute? I mean, it was the last day of the seventh days, right? He had this 1 week left, and it was the last day. And who of us, I would not like to be summoned the last minute to a place. I would like to know in advance. So I don't know, was she told in advance that she was supposed to come? Or was that a surprise to her? Did she think, oh, my husband is drunk now, he's asking for me to come, it's okay, I wouldn't go?
I never been drunk.
I don't know what she was thinking, but I know I don't, the Bible doesn't say why she chose not to come. So I don't know her circumstances and all.
And the tradition. I don't know the background, to be honest.
Yeah.
What is it like, the situation with the tradition? Like when she has her own party, from now and here, this is bad. Your husband having a party, you should join him, right? But she's having her own party. Is this good for culture at that time? I don't know. Like in Upper Egypt, you remember when we invite someone, all men comes and sit in one room, and all women, you know, in the other room. What's happening?
Pastor Mike is saying, yes, I know.
You know, I don't know the culture. So does it have to do with the culture? I'm not sure.
Actually, the culture would not, like in a party like this, she wouldn't be invited.
Exactly.
And she had her own party for the wives of the, you know, the leaders of the other, you know, governors, captains.
How I would view this whole thing. If I was in her situation, I definitely would do the same thing that she did. I mean, at least that's where my heart, or how I would feel that I would like to respond. But if I were to think twice about it, I probably would just show up just to keep the peace, and then later on try to find a way where I can communicate and let them know, you know, what happened was wrong.
I don't get drunk either. So.
But then there's another question that I have, because I know that in the book of Esther, it says that the wives could not come unless they were summoned, right?
Okay.
To the king. Well, that's who we're talking about.
Yeah.
So who's to say how long it's been since she met up with him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he had many concubines too. So
A really, really, really important question that I think would be applicable to us today when there's conflict between the husband and the wife in a public setting, is it important to have a united front and deal with the issue privately, or continue to allow the issue to escalate publicly and whatever happens, happens?
I think that it's all about respect, you know, and because I feel that, you know, let's say if you're with another couple and they start arguing, it makes everybody uncomfortable. And I think there's few occasions that you might have to say something, but I think it's the respect and how much you care about the feeling of the other person. And because we've been in cases that some people around us have been arguing, and it makes everybody uncomfortable. And but it's really good after to talk. You know, you talk in private, and then also, for me, there's times that I want a true friend that is going to tell me that I was wrong, you know, and I accept that. And so I think it's about respecting each other, and also respecting the people around you.
But in a sense, I think the problem is that it's a broken relationship between the husband and the wife.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Islam, do you mind if I ask a further question on this?
Go ahead.
In the setting of a home where there may be children in the home,
Mm.
how important is it to have a united front in front of the children? Because conflicts are going to arise, right? We're going to have differences of opinion. We're going to see things a little bit differently and sometimes disagree very strongly on a particular issue. And the kids are listening, even when we don't think that they're listening. How important is it to have a united front in that context, and then have a private meeting alone between the two people later?
It's very
I think it's very important in both situations. In the kingdom with the queen, I think it's very important, because when you try to solve a problem between husband and wife in front of others, the pressure added to the situation of the husband thinks that, oh, I'm gonna be bad, you know, it's gonna be bad for me, and the wife will think, oh, he's not treating me well, and your witness, the pressure adds to the decision. It's not adding to the decision, it forms the decision. In most of the cases, it forms the decision, and most of the time it's a wrong decision.
That's what happened with the king.
Yeah, the king and queen. Now he's not dealing with only his wife or his queen. He's dealing with the emotions of the whole nation.
All these men.
All leaders, and you know, and now he under the pressure of being the man, being the powerful, being the rich, in front of all those people. You know what? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna divorce her, which is totally wrong. You know.
But answering your question, Pastor Al, isn't it also important for the kids to see that mom and dad can have different ideas about some issues, and for the kids to learn how to hear out each other, sometimes make compromise for each other, or come up with a creative solution to our differences or whatever. I think it's sometimes important that the children see how we deal with this, because they're going to face these situations one day as well.
I completely agree with you, and that's very important as they learn from us how they're going to deal with an issue and not attack each other on the issue, how they're going to stand shoulder to shoulder and look at a problem and try to figure out a solution to the problem, even though there might be two different perspectives. I completely agree with you. But there are some issues that need to be reserved for the privacy of a closed meeting.
Yeah, depending on the issue, yeah, of course.
Depending on the issue. But, you know, having been in the ministry, we've known of couples who talk about anything and everything, you know, in front of everyone. And that's a very unhealthy kind of thing. We need to be a little more careful as to what we're saying and when we're saying it and how we're saying it.
Yeah.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that if we have or know how to communicate, because a lot of times, especially when it's heated, what ends up happening is voices are raised and we're out of control. And so that kind of setting, you don't want to present before the kids. You know, if you want to teach them how to communicate is when you're able to sit down one-on-one, back and forth, actually listen before you do the speaking. And that's what we want to train, you know, our children to do.
Which is he was out of control, right?
Yeah.
Because he was drunk. He lost it. He lost the control already. So he's dealing with the marriage issue when he was drunk. So that's, oh my goodness.
Drunk with whatever he was drinking, and drunk with power.
With power, with influence from others.
Yeah.
Well, in Ephesians 5, it's very clear where it says, 5:25, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. And listen to this. Here is the part that, you know, the key, I think, to this. And gave himself up for her. Okay? Gave himself up for her. That it's not about me anymore. Okay? Our old pastor, when he was doing marriage counseling for us, he shocked us with the first thing that says, if you decide to go into marriage giving 50% and expecting 50%, let me tell you, your marriage is going to fail. But if you go into marriage giving 100% because you love that person and you want to give her 100%, and even if she gives you nothing, you still love her, that marriage is going to make it. And for her, she gives 100%, expect 0%. Both of you will be getting 100% of the other person without any expectancy. So instead of King Xerxes giving himself for his wife, he was expecting everything from his wife. Just become like everything else I have. Just become like the linens that I hung, the gold cups that I'm serving wine in. Just become like one of the many things that I'm showing up with. Just become one of these. That's not giving yourself to your spouse. That's not sacrificing for your spouse. That's just using your spouse to the max. And when she doesn't deliver, when she doesn't meet that expectation, okay, then the law comes in. Then it's time to consult the law. Okay? And as I mentioned earlier, there is no tenderness in the people. Like, there is one thing that I talk to my my friends about, other things to talk about my wife, like there's one way to talk about friendships or business or cars or homes or this or that, and there's completely different thing to talk about your wife. And then also it says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. Okay? As you do to the Lord. That doesn't mean so, but your husband has to be what? Submitted to the Lord. You know? So it's right here that the issue that so many people fight about, should I submit? Should I love? First, we all have to submit to God. Whether it's husband or wife, right here, God is mentioned in both verses. We have to, as couple, to submit to God first. And when we submit to God, I will find it easy to give, as a husband, to give myself to my wife, and she will find it easy to submit to her husband. And fortunately, in this scenario that we're talking about, he is expecting everything from her. He's not giving anything to her because he's not submitting to anyone. And on her side, I'm with Philip. She doesn't trust him. Why would she? This is a guy, I think Delia said that, this is a guy that she sees probably once a year. And this is a guy that's been drinking and having fun for the last 187 days. God knows what he will want her to do. Right now, he just wants her to show her pretty face. 5 minutes later, you don't know what he will ask her to do. There is no God to control anything here. And that will take me, because it's 8 o'clock, that will take me to the main point of the, if you guys don't mind, that will take me to the main point of this chapter, or the one thing in this chapter or this verse. As much as we don't see God, his name is not mentioned. Xerxes is doing whatever he wants. Vashta, or whatever her name is doing whatever she wants. Everything seems like out of control. Where is God in this situation? Okay, if I am looking at this chapter right now, only this chapter, if I'm looking to the next chapter, if I'm looking even to the following one, here we are talking about this, then we learned about Esther, we'll learn about that in the next chapter. This poor little girl, she lost her parents. They didn't just die, they got killed. And now she has to be raised by her uncle or whatever. Cousin. So where is God in all of that? And as believers, as church, when we are living in these situations, what do we do?
I think this is a perfect picture of God taking what was not to be and making it a beautiful story out of it. Whatever the enemy meant for evil, God turns around for good, for the glory of his name.
Amen.
Yeah, but okay, that's okay. Dalia, I exactly what you're saying. I agree with you 100%. But let's put ourselves in that situation. How do we think? How do we deal with it? How do we deal with what we're dealing with right now? I know what we're doing. I know we've been encouraging each other and all of that. But I want us to say it so we can hear it, so we can repeat it, so we can pray it, so we can remind each other, remind ourselves of what to do when it's that dark. What to do when Xerxes is in control. What to do when there is no law other than what he says it is. What to do as believers, as Christians. What can we do? I want to hear your thoughts. I want to be encouraged by you.
To me, it is because I'm going to speak as what has been going in my few little weeks. First, it took me to recognize that I needed God. It needed to recognize, because I had that image that, oh, I've been walking with the Lord 30 plus years. Nothing is going to make me doubt or fear or anything. But when I removed myself out of the situation and I recognized what I needed, for me was first to recognize that I needed God. I needed his guidance. I needed his presence. And then reach out and humble myself and ask for help, you know? So I don't know if that's the question, but that's how I think it is, first to recognize who God is and what we need, and be humble enough. I'm not saying that I'm humble, but being honest enough and say, this is where I'm lacking and that's what I need, and let God come and do what he has to do with whatever the situation is going on, and not try to wash it out with worship, just cover it with the word only, because you could read the word, but if the heart is not in it, and your heart and your faith is not in it, it doesn't work. For me, it didn't. So I needed to let God take control of what was in that moment in my heart or in my life, and surrender.
And okay, so I want to share this. I know that it's getting late, but I think you will like it.
We're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
because when I was preparing and studying, I wanted to study the introduction for the whole for the whole book, which is kind of related to your question, Assam. So the chapter 1 and 2 is the rise of the Qiyam, Esther, the rise of Esther, the preparation of Esther, all what's happening with the Queen Vashti. This one is just preparation for Esther to rise up, and preparation for a season to come. Okay, preparation for season to come, and a credit that God is putting in Mordecai's life with the king. So all this is kind of chapter 1 and 2 is preparation for a season to come, and then from chapter 3 to 7 is the rise of Haman, which is the evil, which is the bad circumstances. And if we consider, I was thinking how to translate this now with the situation that we're going through with coronavirus, no job, and financial situation, health situation. And we're saying this is hard, yeah? But maybe there is a harder even situation is coming, because Haman, the rise of Haman will cause them to die. He's planning for them all to die. So this is another season is coming, but God, that was not mentioned, is preparing for it. Is preparing that he will put Esther in the palace, because he wanted to prepare her. I think the key verse in the whole book, for such a time as this, because not only Corona, maybe maybe Corona is the soft problem. Maybe there is a season coming, it will be harder. Maybe, I don't know. But God is preparing us, Pastor Mike, Pastor Al, Assam, Pastor Edwin, John, Robin, every one of us, Fawaz, James, Rafiq, preparing us for such a time as this, maybe. So this is, I don't know what will happen, but I believe that God is preparing us. And then from chapter 8 to chapter 10 is the rise of Mordecai. When God reveals to the king what he did, and he put him in a position of government. So I believe that what's happening with the queen, with the king, with Esther, is all preparation for something to come. In his perfect plan, he will use the worst situation to bring something beautiful out of it. And I believe it's very similar to what we are going through now. So God is preparing us. Say amen.
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 For whatever season is coming, God is preparing us for such a time as this. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
We can collect the offering now.
Ron, do you have something to say?
Assam,
What's that?
Rola's asking, do you have something to share with concerning your question?
No. Okay. So concerning I agree with everything that Philip said. And what I want to encourage you and encourage myself is go back and read Hebrews 11. Sometimes we don't see it. but it's coming. Okay. Sometimes we don't see what God is doing, but He is doing. That doesn't mean He's not doing anything. He is doing something. You might not see it. You might not understand it. You might not you might not think you have the ability to wait for it. Trust me, He will give you the ability to wait for it. God is doing something. Something is cooking. God is at work. We were, and Kiwi is.
You heard my voice.
Gracie, yeah, Gracie, can you get Kiwi? God is doing something in our lives. Okay, God is trying to get the church ready for something.
Amen.
There are so many powers and so many forces that have been in control for so long. As I mentioned earlier, Xerxes' name is everywhere. Haman's name is everywhere. The consultants' names are everywhere. They are filling our atmosphere. They're everywhere. Okay, and they got to their nation to this place. But let me tell you, as much as loud as the enemy has been, not the last week or 2 or 6 weeks, no, he's been very loud for the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. The enemy has been very, very loud. And I feel like right now, God is shutting him down.
Amen.
God is shutting down bars. God is shutting down places where people went and spent their money and committed sins. God is shutting down so many things. You know, God is taking the crown from the world and its power and all that it had on us.
Amen.
And the church right now is getting ready to wear the crown.
Amen.
The church right now is getting ready to wear the crown. So be ready, be encouraged. Your turn and my turn is cooking right now.
Amen.
We're coming.
Awesome.
We're coming. So be encouraged. It's going to get dark before it gets bright. But you know what? The light is coming.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Anyone else?
I agree with everything you said, my brother. And then one thing comes up to my mind is when we read the book, God is at work. And I was reminded how God works. First, He works as individuals. And every one of us, like individuals. And now He's working as a congregation, right? And look at now, is the whole world. He's working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So He started from one person, and then as a family, and then as a congregation, and now as a whole world.
Amen.
So God is at work. You know, it's good.
Amen.
Amen to that. Amen. Amen.
All right. So I guess that gives a great segue to read chapter 2 and to be encouraged and come back and share some thoughts next week. I thought that was wonderful. Thank you, Assam. Thank you for what you shared.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who participated with your thoughts. It's really encouraging to dive into the scriptures and to pull out the nuggets and the practical application and to see each other and to encourage each other. So,
Amen.
great job.
Pastor, if I may, briefly, I just want to make a quick announcement. So last Saturday we had our first youth meeting through Zoom.
Awesome.
Natalie was awesome. She put a game on and we were able to enjoy the time. So this Saturday, we're going to try it again. So the invitation's open. It's going to be at 6 o'clock on Saturday.
With the same link?
This same link.
And it worked fine without me?
It worked fine. Yeah, we didn't need you.
Ah, awesome. That's my goal in life. That's my goal in life.
So just wanted to announce that this Saturday we're going to try it again. And so
at what time?
It'll be at 6 o'clock on Saturday.
6 p.m. Saturday. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Very cool. Hey, James, can you pray for us?
Sure. God, I thank you for bringing us all here together. God, I thank you that the time that this virus came into the world is also a time where we have so many means of still gathering together. Lord, you haven't left us alone. You haven't taken away our ability to gather. You've left it for us, and we're taking full advantage of it here. God, I thank you that you never leave us, but you always bring relief. You always bring deliverance, God, just as you did with the Jews in Esther's time. God, I thank you that we can glean from your word, God, that we can learn so much about how to live our lives today, that your word is not some document from thousands of years ago, but it's alive, God. It's living, and it has so much to teach us. And I pray that we would never think so highly of ourselves that we forget to submit to you, or that we forget to submit to each other in our relationships, God. But that you would show us what it means. Help us to continue to focus on you, on your person, on your meekness and your service and what you did on earth. And help us to emulate that when we interact with each other, we would have the wisdom and the humility to to serve each other with kindness, and just continue to show your love to all those around us. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Ya Rabbi.
Amen.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, Assam.